guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Philip and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this amazing game of birthday cake layers on Scratch. Now, this game is really cool because we actually don't use any sprites. We use the pen extension which draws these rectangles and fills them. A cool thing that we learned in this game is how to use lists to be part of a game, to use them for a game, and also how to make your own block. And also in this game, we use math calculations. We learned some new math calculations to help us decide what the length of the next block should be. So let's get started. Click the create button, and the first thing we're gonna do is draw a rectangle. Now, first of all, it would have been cool if in Scratch you could just get a rectangle sprite and change the size of one dimension. But you can't do that. There is a block called change size, but that changes the size of both dimensions, y and x. So that doesn't work. So one idea to do this, to draw a rectangle, is to just get a ton of costumes, because we need one costume for every possible size that the rectangle could be. And by a ton, I mean like 100 or even 200 different costumes, because these rectangles can be like pretty big, not too big, like 200, like I said, or something small. So it can be anything from like 1 to 200, let's say. So we're not going to use that idea. We're going to use this even cooler idea using the pen extension. And this is going to be the first game we use this pen extension to actually draw our rectangle. And we're not going to be using any sprites except for this one. And we're only using this sprite because we need to somehow be able to draw with the pen extension. So let's go ahead and delete this cat. And we're going to be getting one. We can get any sprite you want. I'm just going to be using like a dot that I made. And you can get any one you want. It doesn't matter because we're not going to be seeing it. And let's go ahead and add the pen extension. So let's go ahead and draw the rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and open up this drawing tab and to show you more about what I mean about it. Okay, so we're going to do pen down first. And then what we want to do is drag it to the right. And that will be change x by 100. Then we're going to go up from here, which will be change y by 20, and then we're going to go back this way right there, which will be change x by negative 100, and then down to complete the rectangle, and that will be y by negative 20. Alright, so let's go ahead and do this in the code. So basically we're going to do when green flag clicked, we're going to erase all because the program doesn't erase it unless you say erase all. And then we're going to do pen down like I said, and then change x by 100, change y by 20, and then we're going to change x by negative 100 and change y by negative 20. Let's go ahead and see what this does, and there you go, it draws a rectangle. So there you go, that's a rectangle, and basically this rectangle is empty, so we want a full rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and open that drawing tab again just to show you what we want to do. Okay, so let me pick this big size. Okay, so we're just going to do this idea of drawing a lot of lines horizontally. So we'll just do that, then we'll go back here and draw another one like that, another one like that, and they'll be touching so that it looks like, so there'll be no gap between them, so that it looks like one big rectangle at the end. Alright, so yeah, it'll be more like that, more lines, but that's a good example for now. So let's go ahead and do this. When green flag clicked, erase all and pen down are going to be the same, along with change x by 100. But after we change x by 100, we want to pen up. Alright, and then we want it to go up just 1 pixel, so change y by 1, because when we come back, we want it to be just 1 pixel up so that it will be connected when we draw the line back. Alright, and then we want to do this while we're still pen up, so we're not drawing this line. We're going back here, and then what we're going to do is change, we're going to pen down. and change X by 100. But you can see that's the same thing that we did up here. Pen down and change X by 100. So we don't need that as long as we put a repeat over here. So we want to repeat this 20 times because that was the original length that I wanted to do for my rectangle. So let's go into that, and you can see that it fills it in. In the end, there's a rectangle that's filled in. So that's good. Next, what we're going to be doing is, since we're going to make a ton of different rectangles, we're just going to go ahead and make a my block, and basically this my block will tell the rectangle what X it should have, what Y it should have, what length, width, and color it should have. So to do that, we will need to add 5 inputs here. This first one's going to be X. We'll add another one, Y, another one, length, another one, width, another one, color. Alright, and those are the 5 we're going to add. Now, this block name is going to be called draw rectangle, let's say. I think that's a good name, because that's what it's going to be doing. It's going to be drawing a rectangle, basically. And there is our block. Alright, so what we want to do is this right here, this repeat, will be our define draw rectangle. And this we'll just keep because we're going to need it in a second. And here we're just going to go ahead and change a few things. So first, this repeat will be repeat width, because we wanted to repeat this how many ever times we set the width to at the beginning. Because this basically makes a line, and we wanted to make enough lines to fill up this whole rectangle, however the width that I said is. Okay, so that will be width. This will be length, because the same thing, we want it to go this length that we set it. But then this here will be 0 minus length, which is the opposite of length. Okay, and we also want it to go to, at the beginning, x, y, these, and we want to go here, and there's a set pen color too. We'll go ahead and use this color one too, set pen color to color, okay? And now over here, what we're going to do is when green flag clicked, erase all, because the program won't erase all without you using the erase all block. And then we want to use our block to draw a rectangle. Okay, so to draw a rectangle, this first one is going to be x, which we can do 0, and then the y can be 0 too. The length will be 100, and the width will be 20. Okay, and the color, let's do something, I don't know, like 100,000, because the number of the color can go to something very high. So let's go ahead and see what this does. Let's see what rectangle it creates. And it creates it here in 00xy, and I'm guessing that the length is 100 here and the width is 20. That's how it looks like. And apparently color 100,000 is this like aquamarine color. So that's nice. Now just to make sure this works, let's go ahead and draw 2 more rectangles. That there'll be a total of 3. Okay? So this one that we're going to be doing, let's say, is going to be x 100, y 100. The length can be something like 50. The width can be something like 75, let's say. And the color, let's just make it 150. Alright, so let's just draw the next one, and then we'll test all of them at once. So we'll do something like negative 100 for this one, negative 50, 200, and 50. And then the color can be, I don't know, 500,000 for this one. Alright, so let's test these 3 rectangles, and there we have them appear. This one is right on the edge of this one, so that works. That's good. Alright, so another thing is that, as you can see, the rectangles get created very slow. And we want them to be created a bit faster, so there's this thing called turbo mode, which you can access by clicking shift while you click the green flag. And you can see here, if it's on, it'll say turbo mode with this like electricity sign in front of it. And basically this will make every single block in Scratch except for the weight block go a lot faster. So let's go ahead and see how fast my rectangles get created in turbo mode. And you can see that they're literally already there. So that's perfect. So far what I've done in this game is make this block, my block, which is called draw rectangle, which you can insert some values and it'll draw a rectangle for you. So basically I'm going to split the remainder of this game into two parts. The first part will be a rectangle moving along the screen, and when you click it falls down right on top of the already existing rectangles. The second part of the game will be to always show the rectangles that have already fallen. So basically, to draw a rectangle, we need X. It's X, Y, length, width, and color. And we need to remember those values because we need to draw many rectangles for the second part of the game that I was talking about. So basically, we need to remember all these values for each rectangle. So we will need a list. Technically, we would need 5 lists because in Scratch you can't keep more than one type of value in each list. So we would need 5, one for each. But there are some special conditions. So first let's talk about X. We will need a list for X because X can be different from the other X's of the other rectangles. Y, we actually don't need a list because it can be calculated. It's always going to go down right on top of the last one. So we can calculate that one. We don't need a list. For length, we do need a list for length because the length can be different than other rectangles. But width, we do not need a list because it's always going to be something like 20. And then color, we do need a list because the color can be different. So in total, we will need 3 lists. We will want to show multiple rectangles, so we will obviously need a repeat. Okay, but how many times do we repeat? That's the question. But so basically, we want to repeat however many rectangles we have in the list. So basically, a block here called length of list, and length of, and then whatever list you want to pick. Now you can do either of the lists since they will always have the same amount of values in them. So I'm just gonna do list X. You could do either one of them, like I said. Basically, in this repeat, length of list X, you want to use your block to draw a rectangle. And basically, in this first one, we made a list for that, right? So list X. So what we want to do is add item 1 of list X. And then for our Y, we want to do something, let's say like -20. And then for our length, we will want to do item 1 of list length. And then for our let's also go ahead and add a second rectangle to the list. So one more value to list X, one more value to list length, and one more value to list color. So just go ahead and duplicate that and change some values. Let's make this something like 90, just a bit to the left. The length can be like 100. Let's just think bigger, but not too big. Yeah, something like 100 should be good. And then the color, let's do 500,000. Alright, so now as you can see, there are some values in these lists which happen because I clicked on them, and that might happen sometimes. So just make sure that values won't get created at the beginning of the game. We'll just delete all of all of the lists at the beginning of the game. Okay, so that's good. Now what we want to do here is we have 2 rectangles in our list, right? So right now we only have 2, but in the game, during the game, we could have something like 10 or something even like 1 or maybe even 0. So we'll want to show multiple rectangles, so we will obviously need a repeat. Okay, but how many times do we repeat? That's the question. But So basically, we want to repeat however many rectangles we have in the list. So basically, a block here called length of list, and length of, and then whatever list you want to pick. Now you can do either of the lists since they will always have the same amount of values in them. So I'm just gonna do list X. You could do either one of them, like I said. Basically, in this repeat length of list X, you want to use your block to draw a rectangle. And basically, in this first one, we made a list for that, right? So list X. So what we want to do is add item 1 of list X, and then for for our Y, we want to do something. Let's say like -20, and then for our length, we will want to do item 1 of list length, and then for our width, let's do something like 20, and then for our color, we'll just do item 1 of list color, okay? But we don't want it to always show item 1 of list X, list length, and list color. We want it to show first item 1, and then item 2, and then item 3, item 4, item 5, and so on. So it'll always be +1. So for this, we will make a variable that I'm going to call index. So make a variable index. Okay, and basically at the beginning, index is going to be 1 because we're going to use this for lists, and lists start at item 1. We're going to put item index of list X, list length, and list color. So let's go ahead and do that. So item index of list X, item index of list length, and item index of list color. And after that, like I said, I always have to go +1. So after draw rectangle, we're going to change index by 1. Okay? Now the last thing with drawing rectangles with these lists is to change the y, to calculate the y, because we don't want the y to always be -20, because then all of the rectangles are going to be right on top of each other. So what we want to do is actually the first rectangle will be sitting at -20, the next one will be -40, -60, and so on. It's a difference of 20 between those numbers that I just said because, as you can see here, the width is 20. So now it's clear that there is a connection between its index and its y. So when index is 1, its y is 20. When mine -20, but let's just say 20 for now. Alright, and when index is 2, the index is -40, but let's just say 40 for now, and so on. So basically there's clearly a connection there. And that connection, I believe, is just take the index and multiply it by 20 and you get the y. But pay attention because this y is negative, not just 20, it's -20. So what we're going to do is 0 minus 20 times index. So let's go ahead and do that. So 0 minus 20 times index. That's what I said. And index our variable. We'll go ahead and put that there instead of the -20. Okay, so let's go ahead and test it. And you can see that there are 2 values in each list. So let's just go ahead and hide those so that we can see the screen better. Put that in the corner, okay? And you can see there are 2 rectangles. Okay, now just to test it further, let's go ahead and add one more value to each list. So what we'll do, just take that off for 1 second while we duplicate that. Oh, sorry. And basically, okay, yes, sorry. So basically, we're just gonna go put that there, and then here, let's do this thing like even more to the left, so like 50. 50 should be good. Its length, let's just think big, like 200. And its color, let's try 0. Alright, so now 3 rectangles should appear, and there you go. That's good. So up until now, what we have done is make these lists and whatever rectangles you put in these lists will get shown. But we want this to happen always in the game. During the game, we want it to always happen. So, forever. Now, inside the forever, we need this code right here and also the erase all. Now, we want to put the erase all after the repeat because we want it to show the rectangles and then erase all, not erase all, and then show the rectangles. Because if you do that, then the rectangles here, when you start the program, will like flicker. But also don't forget to put a weight before the erase all, like a small weight, like a 0.1, maybe even like a 0.01 second weight, because otherwise it will also flicker. Let's go ahead and test it. And you can see that works. They appear there, so that's good. Forever they appear there. Alright, so that's it with this, and basically um, next we're going to make that rectangle that moves along the screen. So to make this rectangle that moves along the screen, we will need to make another thread, and that is because if we were to do it on this thread, we would have to do it in this forever, and the code for this and the thing that we're gonna do is just gonna get mixed up and it's gonna get confusing. So just to make it simpler, we're just gonna do another thread. So we're at the beginning, we're gonna do a broadcast at the beginning to start this new thread. So we're gonna go ahead and broadcast new rectangle. And when I receive new rectangle, we want to move the rectangle. So to do that, we need to change its x by something positive. But this is not a sprite. This is something that we drew with the pen thing. So we need to make a variable for its x so that we can change it. But here we see that when we draw a rectangle, we have to give it 5 values: x, y, length, width, and color. So same for this moving rectangle. We're going to have to give it those 5 values. So for the first one, x, we will need a variable for it because just like I said, we will have to change it by something positive. Next is y. We do not need a variable for this one because y will always stay the same thing, 0. And then for the length, we will need a variable because the length will change once it stops moving from left to right. It will fall down and then it'll like have to cut itself to match with the last rectangle that has done that. And the width, we do not need a variable for the width because the width will always be 20. And last but not least, color, we will need a variable for color because the color we want to change. We don't want it to always stay the same color because that's boring. So let's go ahead and make these 3 variables. The first variable we can call is moving rectangle. So moving rectangle x. And the second one we can make is moving rectangle length. And the third and last variable we're going to make is called moving rectangle color. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is set these values when I receive new rectangle. I'm going to set these values to what I want to set them to. So the x, the moving rectangle x, will be negative 240 because we wanted to start on the left side of the screen. And then also the length, the moving rectangle length, will be something, let's say, something big like 200. 200 should be good. And the color will be a pick random from 0 to 16 million. 16 million because I read somewhere that that's the number. Alright, so that's good. But then after this, what we want to do is we want to repeat until mouse down. We want to do something until mouse down. So let's grab that lock. Okay, so repeat until mouse down. And what we want to do is we want to, like I said, move. So we want to change our variable moving rectangle X by something positive, let's say 5. Okay, and then we also need a weight so that it can go not too fast, because then it goes too fast. Let's do something like 0.001. Okay, and also what we want to do now is we want to actually draw the rectangle. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to do this in this forever here because we want to draw this rectangle forever. Okay, so draw a rectangle. This right here, the first value is its x, which will be moving rectangle x or variable. The y will be 0. The length will be our variable. The width will be 20. And the color will be our variable for color. Okay, let's go ahead and test it. And there we go. There it is. There is the moving rectangle. When I click, it stops. So that's good. Next, what we want to do is simulate these 4 rectangles, or how many there are here, including this one that just moved. We want to simulate them coming down. So to do that, the trick here to do that is we are going to add these the rectangle into the 3 lists. In the first position. In the first position, because here it creates first the first position ones, and then the second and third and fourth, and so on until it runs out. And we want this to be the first rectangle created. So to add it into the first position, we have to insert a thing at one of list whatever we want. We'll start with list X, and this thing is going to be our variable called moving rectangle X, our variable. Okay, go ahead and duplicate that, and this will be length, and just duplicate that too. This will be color, a variable moving rectangle color into our list color. Make sure this is all 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. And when we click, you can see that it comes down, but it still stays there. So what we did works, but that rectangle stays there at the end. We never tell it to come back. So to tell it to come back and start moving again and keep doing its thing, we want to just broadcast the message again here at the end. Okay. So now let's go ahead and see what happens. And when we click, it does this. And that is because while you're clicking, this right here, it still thinks your mouse is down. So it will keep repeating this on and on. So that's why it just does this. So what we need to do to only make it do it once, like we want it to, is just add a small wait before the broadcast. Let's say 0.5 seconds. Should be good. Alright, now let's see what happens when I click. It goes down and it comes back here and it does the same thing when I click. And that is working good. But there is one problem. When you click, you can see right there for a second, well actually for 0.5 seconds, there are 2 of them on top of each other. It looks like they're double. So that is because first we insert these values, right after you insert those values, we wait and then we broadcast. So basically what we have to do is we actually have to wait right before the insert so that it doesn't double up like that. Okay, so when we click, it doesn't double up, it just stops right there with nothing on top of it. So that is much better.